Hello and welcome everyone. My name is Zlata Sushchik and I'm the host of the Sexyfit Summit. Today I have Hyson, who is a training director of Men's Fitness, Muscle Fitness magazines. He's also the author of 101 Best Workouts of All Time and his new upcoming ebook, The Truth About Strength Training. He's written about diet and exercise for about a gazillion years now, and I am so excited to have him. Hi Sean, how are you?
All right, thanks, Lana.
How is New York today?
It is quite hot today. We are up around 90.
Oh wow! Oh wow! Well, you've been in health and fitness for a really long time. So what's your story? How'd you get into it?
I was a magazine writing major in college, and at the same time, I was very interested in health and fitness. I was always into working out, and I was just lucky enough that I got a job at a publishing company that happened to publish fitness magazines. So I worked my way up from there. I got my CSCS a couple years later, and I became the fitness editor.
That's awesome. I've my boyfriend is a huge fan of Men's Health, so thanks so much for contribution. I appreciate it. Let's get into some fat loss talk. For women, it's really important. For men, it's really important. And sometimes weight loss and fat loss are really confused. So, what, in your opinion, is the most efficient fat loss workout or type of working out, I should say?
Well, for that's the thing. I think that fat loss workouts are kind of a misnomer. It's really all about diet for fat loss. I believe that any training that builds muscle is equally useful for losing fat. Your diet has to be tight and you have to cut calories. But if you want to talk about specifics about training, I'm still a big fan of old school progressive overload. I think if you get physically stronger on certain, you pick a handful of lifts and you work on getting stronger at them, you're going to build muscle, and that's going to speed your metabolism and give you the look you want and help preserve muscle and preserve a good physique while you're cutting calories from your diet. So they go hand in hand.
So less is more when it comes to working out?
Yeah, I don't think you need to spend more than an hour in a gym or do reps till you puke or run all over the gym without rest periods until you fall over. I think slow and steady does it, and a lot of the hyped up fat loss workouts today are just that, hype.
So how many times a week do you think someone should work out on average?
To lose fat for a regular person, 3 days a week, three full body workouts, I think would be fine. And if you want to supplement that with cardiovascular training, that might speed things along. But more important than anything is following a good diet every single day. That's the one thing you have to do every day is eat clean.
So I follow you on Twitter all the time, and I see a lot of talk around clean eating and macronutrients and hitting your macros. Could you tell me a little bit more about that?
I'm a big fan of Nate Miyake's diet system. You can check him out on natemiyake.com. It's really old school bodybuilding dieting. It's the same stuff that's worked for the last 50-odd years. Guys like Arnold were experimenting with back in the 60s and 70s. You just want to get a gram of protein per pound of your body weight a day. That helps preserve muscle mass when you're dieting. You want to get 20% of your calories from fat. That can be saturated fat, unsaturated fat. Most of that's going to come from the protein foods you eat, such as meat and eggs. And then get the rest of the calories from carbs. And your carb sources, I believe, should be potatoes, rice, and some fruit. And it's really pretty simple. Stick with that, and you can't go wrong.
So this sounds really simple.
Yeah, amazingly, it is. I think I used to be in the low carb camp, and I thought that I just cut out carbs, and you're going to drop a lot of weight. And you do initially, but it isn't really fat, and it's not sustainable. And it really all comes back to just a balanced diet over time. The only trick, the only difficult part about any of this is just the time you have to put in. It's going to take a few weeks to see real results, and you got to keep it going. But it's nothing that anybody with an average amount of intelligence couldn't accomplish.
Interesting. I always say that it's actually simpler than we think. It's, working out 3 days a week. It's not anything crazy like, hey, let's get on a treadmill and do about 2-3 hours of cardio and see what happens.
Sure.
Women make that mistake often when they start working out. They do countless hours of cardio. What's your opinion on that? How does it negatively affect our body, maybe?
Yeah, I think it's a shame. I think the idea is that if women lift weights, they're going to get muscular or too muscular. They can turn into men, and cardio burns more calories, and that's going to give them a more feminine look. But it's a mistake, and a lot of cardio can just mess with hormone levels and make you store fat, and it's also harder to progress than simply adding weight to the bar with lifting. So I'm not saying cardio is a bad idea, but it just doesn't need to be the focus of your workouts. And when you think about the time commitment, 45 minutes to an hour of weights versus an hour or more of cardio several more days per week, I mean, the weights just seems like the easier way to go as far as a time investment standpoint goes.
Yeah, that's for sure. I've been trying to get bulky for years. Look at me. I
Yeah.
mean,
I mean, it's remarkable. I train with a lot of women who compete in strongman competition. These women are lifting heavy weights and they're intense and they want it bad. They want to build muscle bad. And a lot of them don't look like they work out. I mean, they don't look like they lift, heavy weights. They look very feminine and normal, but they're strong as bulls, which is great.
hmm I love seeing women doing the Spartan races and the mud runs and things like that. I'm signed up for the Spartan Beast, so I'll see how that goes.
Yeah, very cool.
Yeah, so yeah, definitely incorporating more of a heavy lifting, and that way you can stay more focused on your program because you're actually hitting personal records and you're increasing and you can actually progress more. So to everyone who's listening, I don't think cardio is bad and I'm not dogging it at all, but I feel like if you set goals and you actually accomplish them, you'll feel more motivated to continue going. So speaking of motivation, what keeps your clients going? What's that one thing? What's the secret?
Well, as I said before, I'm a big fan of the progressive overload programs, and I think it's easier to keep going when you base your program around strength. If you have certain numbers you want to hit, if you want to, lift X amount of weight for, if you're going to do that for 5 reps this month, let's see if you can do it for 6 reps next month, or let's see if you can add 5 pounds to the bar. And I think that's a great way to stay motivated because when you play the numbers game, you're always getting concrete feedback on how you're doing. If you're getting stronger, then you're getting better and subsequently fitter. So if you can keep improving your numbers, you're going to keep looking better eventually, and it's going to happen, and you're going to keep seeing more improvements in fitness. I think if you train purely for aesthetics or purely based on how you feel and the idea of mixing it up and muscle confusion and all that, it's well and good, but you leave a lot to chance like that, and it's a lot harder to gauge your gains over time. So I think I like to base it on strength and try to set certain personal records.
Mm-hmm. What's a good way to measure progress? Oh my gosh, sorry.
I think you want to, let's say you're doing squats for 5 sets of 5 this month with just random number 100 pounds. Let's see if you can do that with 110 pounds next month. Let's see if you can increase it to 6 reps per set. You would just want to play little games like that with yourself. It doesn't even have to be about adding weight or reps. It could be about maybe shaving down the rest periods by 10 seconds between each set, or you just find different ways to manipulate the intensity and keep growing. And if you're always keeping a log and writing this stuff down, then you've got a record of what you've been doing and what you still need to do to make progress. And you'll see your numbers improve over time, and that's very satisfying. I think those gains, those improvements will come a lot faster than weight going down on the scale. But ultimately, that means that weight will be going down on the scale. If you get stronger, you get fitter, you get better, you're going to get leaner ultimately. So, but you're going to see that progress happen a lot quicker, and that's going to motivate you to stick it out till you see the aesthetic results that you want.
Awesome. So, what's a good way to track my progress other than you said the journal log is important, right? What else?
I mean, you certainly want to take measurements. You can grab a measuring tape and measure your waist, your thighs, any areas of your body that you consider, problem areas. You'll get good feedback seeing those measurements go down over time. I do believe in weighing yourself every day just to be consistent. It's nice to identify patterns. I think if you get up and weigh yourself after you go to the bathroom in the morning about the same time every day, you're going to see certain patterns develop, and you'll know how you respond to different foods. Mm-hmm. Just in general, not being too meticulous about it, but you want to have a couple benchmarks in your life that you go by that you can go back and look and say, okay, well, this is improving or this isn't, and this is how I've been doing so far.
Am I going to gain weight? Am I going to lose weight when I start lifting? How's that going to work?
Initially, you might gain a little weight, but that's probably going to be muscle coming on, or maybe it's going to be retention of water because you're probably going to be eating a little bit more carbs or changing your diet around to suit the lifting. But yeah, that's why you have to be careful about measurements. You want to make sure that as long as the waist measurements are going down over time, there's no question you should be losing fat. So you don't want to go by the scale too closely, but it is an overall good barometer. I mean, you should be losing a couple pounds per month if you're doing things right.
A couple pounds per month. Okay, gotcha. So another question, what do you think about progress pictures? Is that a good way to measure yourself with your fitness level? If you're, women, we're really focused on how we look. So,
Sure,
I feel like,
Yeah, I didn't think about that initially, but yeah, absolutely. Take photos of yourself from the front and the side. If you're comfortable having somebody else do it for you, then you get a more impartial look rather than just snapping the selfies. That's
Don't get busted in the locker room though. That's awkward.
yeah, and that's important too, because ultimately, how you look is how you feel, and if you perceive that you're looking better and leaner in the mirror, then that's going to make you feel a world better about how you're doing things.
I'm going to summarize what Sean said about tracking your progress. He suggested that you need to track by weight just to see how your body's reacting. Writing down things in your journal, which I think is a really key one. I actually write mine out ahead of time. Because I feel like that's easier to keep me on track. So hopefully somebody can use that strategy. And then also taking progress photos, because they are going to be a visual measure of success. If pants are not enough, I guess.
Right.
So it's always good to see. It's always good to see from progress photos. I still do it, and I keep improving, and it's little increments, but it's definitely really rewarding. So for someone who's just starting out on the fitness journey, they do not know anything about the gym. What are some resources you can suggest for them?
Well, I think the best thing you can do is get yourself a good trainer, a good coach. Try to find somebody with a reputable certification from the NSCA or ACSM at your local gym, and just get them to show you the ropes, because there's nothing worse than going in and not really knowing what you're doing and just kind of heaving weights around and going crazy and risking injury, which is what happens to a lot of people. So you got to have somebody to show you what you're doing. If not a coach, then a very experienced friend, somebody you can trust. And then I would get on a program. I think that maybe it's a little too much to ask for some people in the beginning. Some people like to feel their way out, just establish the habit of going to the gym, and that's fine. But the sooner you get on some kind of a plan, the sooner you're going to see results. If you leave it to chance, then you're going to get random results. So it's good to find somebody who knows what they're doing to give you a little bit of guidance, and then stick with some very, very basic plan that just gets you in the habit of going to the gym and working hard.
Gotcha. So I want to get back to food, and I want to get back to eating clean, macronutrients and calories and things like that. What's your approach?
Well, I said before, I like that Nate Miyake system of 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight a day. I like 20% calories from fat.
Do you track that? I mean, do you track that in an app, or how do you?
Yeah, I'm old school. I write things down. I look at food labels and I estimate things. I mean, if you look at the palm of your hand, that's going to, any source of lean protein, whether it's chicken, turkey, or beef, it's going to be about 25, 30 grams of protein with, 0 to 5 grams of fat. And, a baseball or fist-sized portion of rice or potatoes can be about 40 grams of carbs. So you don't have to get into food scales and weighing it all out, but that is not a bad idea. And you just want to get in the habit of roughly hitting those numbers. And I like for fat loss, I like 12 grams per pound for calories a day. Multiply your body weight times 12, and that's the number of calories you should start eating. And then you can subtract very gradually from there.
So when people talk about macronutrition, I hear that starting to get more popular, because before we always kind of labeled it, oh, this is paleo, this is clean, this is not clean, this is GMO or whatever. Can you tell me a little bit about macronutrients, macronutrient count, and how that connected to everything you just said?
Say again, macronutrients and how they connect to paleo and other diet fads?
So, you know how we always kind of labeled, oh, eat clean or eat carbs, eat less carbs. I'm talking about the trends lately with actually naming things how they're supposed to be named. This is your protein, this is your carbohydrates, this is your fats, macronutrient manipulations and things like that, and how fats can replace carbohydrates in some instances. What is your experience with that?
Well, to the average person coming into this kind of diet, it's always like they're just thinking in terms of what's healthy food and what's not. Maybe they're thinking that fruit is healthy and bread is healthy, but peanut butter cups aren't. And that's a good start. But when you start following like a macronutrient diet, you want to think in terms of separating these things out. You want to think about fruit is now carbs. That's your carb source. Rice is carbs. Potatoes are carbs. Vegetables are kind of like that gray area where they're carbs, but they have fiber and they don't impact blood sugar, so we don't count those as carbs generally. With protein now, your meats and your eggs and fish and stuff, that's now considered as protein. So you're going to eat those foods and count them as protein grams. And then most of that is also those protein foods that have fat in them are going to be counted as fats. Then you've got your full whole fat sources such as nuts and seeds and avocados and egg yolks that are counted just as fats. So you have to. There is a paradigm shift where it's not just about healthy food anymore. It's about getting these little pieces of the puzzle to fit together right to make the proper diet. So you're going to get a little bit of this and a little bit of that, and altogether it's going to form a balanced diet. So you do have to change your thinking a little bit, but I don't think it's too difficult when you consider that, just what I said, meat is basically protein and fruit and starch is carbs, and the fat kind of falls in between.
Awesome. That's exactly what I was asking. I really appreciate that. I'm glad that you sort of got my question. And last question in regards to food and macronutrients and things like that. I see a lot of people going into fitness routines and they cut out certain macronutrient groups. Mm-hmm. Carbs were bad and fats were bad, and we sort of demonized every single one of those. What's your opinion on taking out a specific food group? Paleo is the huge thing right now, which I'm kind of partial on.
Sure. I think paleo, in essence, is a good idea. It's anytime you're going back to the land and back to the way people ate hundreds, thousands years ago, that's always going to be safer and smarter than eating all the modern processed junk that's so easily available to us today. I think paleo, like strict paleo, is probably better for more sedentary people who they're not athletes. They don't have their need for carbs isn't as severe as those people who work out. So if you're going to work out, I think you have to add some rice and sweet potatoes, some kind of starch to support those workouts and help recovery. But for regular people who just want to lose weight and aren't ready to take the plunge into like a real exercise program, then strict paleo without the starches is probably okay. As far as cutting out whole nutrients, any kind of extreme approach like that isn't going to be sustainable. I mean, I've tried it both ways. I tried cutting out fat entirely when I was young. I tried cutting out carbs entirely, and ultimately it just makes you miserable. I mean, really, fat loss is very, very simple. It's just about cutting calories. You got to create a caloric deficit, and you can do that in many, many ways. But the simplest way is just to cut all these nutrients just a little bit, so you get that deficit. And if you're working out hard, lifting weights, you don't want to cut from carbs too much because you need the energy from them, and you don't want to cut from fat too much because you need something to support the hormones. Fat is big for hormone production, and you don't want to cut from protein because it's going to cut into your muscle mass. So you got to cut each of them just a little bit, and get that caloric deficit, from a balanced approach, not just the sledgehammer approach of taking out one nutrient entirely, because you will pay for that ultimately.
Awesome. I appreciate that explanation. I think that's the best way to explain paleo versus athletic performance and how it connects to fitness. What about micronutrients? What about supplementation or protein shakes going to make me huge? I mean, look at me.
I think micronutrition, as far as vitamins and minerals, when you start eating according to the way I described and eating basic, clean, whole foods, all that is covered. That's the beauty of it. You don't have to worry about my ratio of saturated fat to unsaturated fat and how much vitamin K am I getting, whatever. It's all going to come in the proper doses when you eat, the proper amount of food and the right, organization. It all kind of takes care of itself, which is a lot less to worry about. It's great. As far as protein shakes making you big, more calories makes you big. More testosterone makes you big. If you're a bodybuilder and you're doing steroids to grow and compete, I mean, those are the things that lead to that kind of freaky muscle growth that scares people. Protein shakes are really just a good idea if you can't meet your protein requirements in a typical day with regular food. If you have trouble getting a certain number of grams of protein, you can supplement with a shake of 25 or so grams here and there. But there's nothing magic about them. There's nothing special, really. It's just an adjunct to what you're already supposed to be doing.
Awesome. Thank you for that explanation, too. I really appreciate it. I personally, to women who are listening, I would have one shake a day for sure. If I'm super late or super behind, if I didn't do my meal prep, I'll do two. But they do not make you big. They're just, if you understand macronutrient manipulation, you'll know exactly what they do. And another question is, again, women struggle with this, is consistency. What are some of your secrets to really stay consistent on your plan?
Well, that is the ultimate question. I guess that's where everybody has trouble.
Yeah, it's also simple. We talked about fitness. We talked about nutrition. We're like, yeah, it's all really easy.
Right. I mean, it really is. the science of it is pretty easy. Having the motivation, that's where most people fall short. I do. I mean, everybody has their moments of weakness. I think you have to have some kind of a long-term goal and a short-term goal. I mean, you're going to want to. You have to convince yourself this is really something you want to do for life. It has to become a lifestyle. You have to decide, I want to be a healthy person. I want to be lean, whatever. I want to look a certain way at the beach every time I go, not just for the summer or in the next 6 weeks, but for the rest of my life. And you have to surround yourself by people who are like-minded in that way, and you have to write down these goals and kind of transform your mind. This is what the kind of person I'm going to be, and you set little goals for yourself, like, okay, maybe in 4 weeks I want to look like this at this party, or be able to take my shirt off at the beach, or whatever it is. And then beyond that, you have to think about how you want to feel long term, and write mantras out for yourself if you need to, read books, surround yourself with those kinds of friends. But it has to be something that you're going to do very, very long term, or you can't do it at all. It's going to be too much.
Awesome. I love it. So just start is what Sean's saying.
Yeah, and remember, there's no such thing as starting too slow or too small. I mean, I know a guy who he has his clients who were just starting out, simply just go to the gym every day. Go to the gym, change into your workout clothes. If you want to leave immediately afterward, go ahead and leave. But at least you get in the habit of going to the gym. Just make sure you put that effort forth. And then what happens is, after a couple of weeks, maybe they've been skipping the sessions, they haven't been working out, they just went there. But eventually what happens is it clicks in your brain, you say, all right, well, I'm here, I'm going to start, I might as well just train. So they do 5 minutes on the treadmill, and then it's 10 minutes, and then very slowly but surely they develop this habit, and it becomes a part of their life, and they can't skip it anymore, they don't want to skip it anymore, and it snowballs from there.
Yeah, it's definitely, if I skip the gym, I'm like, who am I? What's happening? Yeah. I'm sure people can relate. And also, it's not just about the gym. I feel like you get so much stronger in your outdoor workouts. I'm in Alaska right now visiting, and the other day I found this amazing hike. It's like 3,500 feet up, and it's like the steepest hill ever. And I definitely thanked my body for all the lunges I've done over the last 8 years, because it was excruciating. And then the next day I thought, I'm going to wake up and I'm going to be so sore. But because my body's used to all the torture I've put it through, it wasn't quite as bad. So, and for people who have kids, it's being able to run after your kids, being able to do things with your kids. It's for us girls who want to hike with their boyfriends and not be left behind. It's for guys who want to take their shirt off at the gym. I mean, I understand the internal motivation of like wanting to look good, but that's not going to get you through a really long time. I mean, you have to know your why, and you have to know your short-term goals. So I think you absolutely hit that there with surrounding yourself with people, getting to the gym as much as you possibly can, and then seeing how it really impacts your life outside of the gym. I think that's a really big piece. I want to talk a little bit about your book.
Please.
And so how did you find that inspiration? So I also, I interviewed Lou Scholler, who's also fantastic. He wrote the book of female weightlifting. Yep. So I'm sure your book applies too. Tell me more.
Well, yeah, the book is 101 Best Workouts of All Time. It's also called the Men's Fitness Exercise Bible. You can pick it up on Amazon.com. And it's under the Men's Fitness brand, but it's very applicable for women as well. The same training works for women just as well as it does for men. And we were thinking about, what is the problem with why people don't stick to workouts, and kind of what we were discussing before, and the question that always comes up is, what is the best workout for me? And the answer is always, it depends on the equipment you have, where you are, what you have available to you, what you enjoy doing, and what you're physically capable of doing. So we decided to compile a book with workouts that answered all those questions. You gave all these different options. So the book has workouts for 2 dumbbells, for 1 dumbbell, for a barbell, a TRX, body weight, bands, suspension trainer, every little implement you can think of out there, machines, and it's got workouts for every setting you could find yourself in. Maybe I have 5 minutes to work out, or I have this empty room, like all I can do is push-ups on the floor. I have nothing to grab onto. We're a prison cell, wherever you might be. We have an option for you. So yeah, there's no excuse anymore that, I can't work out, or I don't know what to do. I mean, you buy this book and it has you set for life, and it has diet in it as well, and you can't go wrong.
I think that Men's Health sometimes should switch their logo to Women's Health just so we're confused for a minute, because I feel like I read and apply more of what Men's Health writes than what Women's Health writes. I think that those workouts just make me feel a lot more athletic. So for all the women who are listening, read Sean Hyson on Men's Health, because all those workouts absolutely apply to us too. I don't think we should be training any different.
Well, it's Men's Fitness. Let me just correct
Men's
that.
Fitness, sorry.
Yeah, you can check out mensfitness.com. Yeah, no, it's true. The women, they've been sold this bill of goods. I know how it works with the media, that oh, you have to train differently from men. The same stuff doesn't work. It's really much less complicated than that. The same stuff does work. Women, obviously, you're not going to be able to lift as much weight as men. You're not going to want to do a lot of the same exercises as men, but there's no reason you can't do them. I mean, women, they're still human beings. They have the same basic functions as men. Their bodies might respond a little bit slower, and they store fat in different places, but the same kind of exercises and diet approach works just as well for them.
Awesome. I love it. I love that advice for sure, because we shouldn't be scared of weights. For all the hundreds of things that I've ever tried in my lifetime of being a fitness competitor, let me tell you, less cardio, more lifting, and eating clean is awesome, because you feel completely different. I'm seeing a new trend emerging with Layne Norton, where he talks about if it fits your macros and how you can kind of eat not so clean food. Just throw it in there. What's your opinion?
Well, I don't want to argue with Layne. I don't know exactly what his argument was there, and obviously he knows his stuff. But I think overall, you still want to err on the side of clean, healthy food more often than not. And jelly beans might fit your macros, but that's not going to fit into a balanced diet overall. So I think it's better to just eat clean 90% of the time. Have your 1 or 2 cheat meals per week, but then get back on track.
Jelly beans don't fit my jeans, so that's all I gotta say. So for everyone who is looking for a strategy to fit in your pants. Okay, so last question. Is there anything else you would like to add, or a strategy you would like to share?
Oh, geez, a strategy for weight loss or strength or muscle or.
Well, we talked about nutrition, so maybe we should take it from the top. So what about a nutritional strategy?
Well, I like weighing your food. I like keeping track of macros. I mean, I mentioned before you can eyeball portion sizes, and that's very true. And that's good when you get into it, just to establish the habit. But sooner or later, you're going to find that it's once you've lost a certain amount of weight, it's harder to get leaner without doing a little bit of math, without keeping track of things a little bit more meticulously. And that's when just getting into measuring cups and food scales, they don't have to be super high tech or expensive. You just need a little feedback into exactly what you're eating, and because after a while it gets kind of hard to tell the difference between 1 and 1.5 cups of rice. And when you get to a certain point where you're very lean, you need to know the difference at that stage. So just get in the habit of measuring things a little bit, keeping better track of that, and that'll keep you on your way. And it shouldn't be to the point where it drives you crazy and it's too much work. It just has to be a little bit of reinforcement for you. And I talk about a lot of this stuff in my book, The Truth About Strength Training. It's an ebook that's going to be coming out later this month, and I dispel a lot of myths in that book.
Awesome. So we'll stay tuned for that. I will leave a .com for you in the same email where they got this message from. I want to thank you for taking the time out of your schedule. I know you're extremely busy, especially with a new book coming out. And my name is Zlata Sushchik, and this was Sean Hyson. We're together here for sexyfitsummit.com. Thanks, guys, and until tomorrow.